And we're back. Hey, Sean, good
Yes,
to
sir.
speak with you again. Been doing
Yes.
good this week?
It's been a good week. To be honest, I'm a little bit nervous about this episode because it's so heavy, but I'm also excited.
Right on. This has been a great series. I've really appreciated the ideas that you've presented, and you've put them in a very cohesive package. It's very all of these things I've experienced or thought about these things and felt some of these ideas intuitively, but those things are very abstract in my mind until you've presented them in this very kind of digestible form.
Very good. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to our final part, but we how about we kind of do a quick review of episodes 1 through 3 and to set us up here.
Sure. We are kind of at a culmination of our previous three topics, so it would make sense to talk about those in brief. When we started, we were discussing what I call team spirit, which is an acronym for tribal emotional art manipulation equals the sensation of spirit. This topic really explains that when we're talking about things that were anciently called spirituality or spirits or ghosts or god characters or angels or demons, this was an ancient way to describe how art media affects tribal units. So ultimately, with our tribes, they form art media houses, which we would call holy places or temples or shaman huts or so on. This is where art ritual is played out boldly. We have bold uniforms and colors and songs, literature, ritual. And so all of this art experience generates strong emotions for the tribal unit. It allows the tribal unit to direct attention of the tribe to problem A, problem B, problem C. And so this effect in art media and emotions in tribal units is an extremely powerful effect for societal development. And this was anciently expressed through what we call spirituality or the Bible as we know it today. And I'm speaking of Western spiritual texts that's describing these very similar effects and achieved in similar ways. So we talk about that as our first topic, just to help us understand. Well, we see this effect in sports teams where the art is on the fans and their colors are put on the fans and the
Mhm.
songs and the ritual and the so on, and there's this high emotional charge that comes from sharing an art experience with your group. Then we discuss balance. So all through our Western pillars of ideology, so Plato being a, a primary pillar of ideology for the West,
Mhm.
and then Judeo-Christian literature also being a pillar of ideology for the West. So when we look at these two pillars of Platonic philosophy and Judeo Christian philosophy, in both cases, the highest philosophy expressed or emphasized for, in particular, Hebrew, that was emet; for Egyptian language, that was ma'at; for the Greeks and Plato, that was mathematics. So we're talking about an understanding of the left and right of a problem.
Mhm.
So the left should equal the right. That's how we get to mathematics. That's how we get the terminology on earth as it is in heaven, or as above, so below, or do unto others as you would have done unto you. That's
Mhm.
a mathematical experience of the left side of the problem is equal to the right side of the problem. And balance is put as the primary principle within both Platonic and Judeo Christian philosophy. Egypt is where both of these schools learn from. Plato repeatedly says he learns from Egypt, Judeo-Christian cultural structure. Both Moses, who was a founding character, was trained in Egypt, and we also have Jesus, who was a foundational character in the Christian side of the culture, who was also raised and trained in Egypt. And
Hmm.
so a lot of this is tying back to Egypt, and it's all tying back to the Egyptian principle of balance, ma'at. So we we understand balance is sort of a primary principle in these philosophies. We understand that emotional effects are what are driving these philosophies. And so we go into where the rubber meets the road in tribal units is that tribal units end up shaking into two groups.
Hmm.
Our third topic being monoculture and multiculture. So this is actually understood in ancient Egyptian philosophy and Judeo-Christian philosophy and Platonic philosophy. I think it's kind of goes underground for a while, but then it does come back in modern sociology where we're talking about monoculture and multicultural sides to a tribal
Yeah.
unit. What we're talking about a left and right side, like our left and right in American politics.
Hmm.
So this left and right or north and south split between cultures is a permanent tribal feature. It's an emotional effect that's present in very small young tribal units. Like I've given example of a small D&D group of a few friends. There's going to be this effect that's in play on a much smaller scale, and then you can take that up to states, nations, and religions, and this effect is going to be more powerful. It's going to have more weight to it. So we're going to find that nations split into a left and right in our ancient texts throughout the Judeo-Christian lore structure, the Bible. Throughout that book, there is a narrative of Israel being split into a northern kingdom and a southern kingdom. And this is an exact point for point image of what we call monoculturalism and multiculturalism.
Right.
So the South, and this was true in Egypt as well. Egypt had this North and South monoculture, multicultural experience for thousands of years before Israel ever came to be. And then when Israel came to be, they immediately had this same structure: North multiculture, South monoculture. The multiculture tends to be a little more relaxed in terms of art structures. So they're okay if you have different art styles or different representations of God characters, or you're not going to be forced to wear your zit or your tefillin, or these are Jewish
Yeah.
rituals. Their art structure is looser, but they prefer demonstration of, okay, you're telling me you can do this thing, but can you do it? Okay, they'd rather have almost more of a scientific um, explanation and demonstration of power. Whereas the monoculture says the art markers become the most important thing, where you have to have this art symbol, you can't have those art symbols. It's very nationalist in its mindset. It wants to hyper promote its own art and hyper diminish foreign art. So it's very defensive
Right.
and over promoting itself. And so these are two different emotional states. Multiculturalism is more of an empathetic state of we all agree to disagree and get along and make it work, where monoculturalism is much more stringent in rule application. It's much more male and narcissist. It's much more, I get more, you get less because you're a lesser valued person. And I'm a more valued person. So I get more things and you get less things.
Hmm.
So we covered all of these things that these are real